Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wasted Local Talent. I am your host, Daniel.
I'm the co-host, Josiah.
You are also a host.
Oh.
You've been moved up to host since Jed's never here. He's been
Okay.
moved down to co-host.
Okay.
The baldness.
We're back this week with more talent.
Yes. Who do we have this week?
Well, thankfully, Roger and Nathan and Bruce aren't on right now.
Yeah. Discord's a pain in the ass.
We apologize for it. Well, Discord looked good compared to, some of them, and I'm going to beat them all in fantasy. But who do we have on this week?
Wanderlust.
Wanderlust.
Yep. We actually just recorded this one on Sunday.
It's still fresh. The microphone is still warm.
Still warm. So I wasn't actually a part of this interview. Josiah and Jed did this interview.
That's true.
Yeah.
I was there. No, it was Wanderlust is in Philippi, and of course we talked about that a lot, and just Philippi as a whole and the vision of Wanderlust, and I'm pretty excited about this interview. It's pretty straightforward. We have a tendency to get off on tangents. This one straight through to the point, and I like it. It's a good change up from whatever you guys did with Ashley.
So, before we get to the episode, just a few things. One, check out all of our other podcasts under the 13 Palm Trees shade. We have D&D Kinda, which is a custom Dungeons and Dragons podcast campaign that me and Michael and Jed and Josh and Ryan are running. We're on episode 30 next week. Pretty pumped about it.
That's exciting.
And we have Video Game Mythos, where Michael and Ryan go over the backstory and lore of video game characters. And we have Gurus of Gaming,
which is, we're about to record the 1 year anniversary episode to that. So yes. I don't know what that's going to entail. Hopefully it's cake.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking forward to it.
Yeah, something that we didn't do here on Wasted Local Talent. We talked about it and could never get everybody in here. We were going to do a 1 year episode, and then we were going to do a 10,000 listens episode because we actually just went over 11,000 listens this past week.
Oh wow!
So thank you all for tuning in every week, and hopefully we'll get to all sit down together sometime and just talk. If I
remember correctly, you texted me and said, "Where are you?" And I forget what I was doing. You're like, "Oh, I thought you were going to be here today for our anniversary episode." I said, "Sorry, bro. I didn't know." So that one's on me. I'm sorry, guys.
It's probably on me. I probably forgot to tell you or
something.
Probably
on Jed.
We'll just blame Jed. But yeah, anyway, also, if you have applied to be on Wasted Local Talent, our email had been down there for a while, so we didn't get any applications for a long period of time. So if you're listening and you've applied and we have not responded, if you can go to 13palmtrees.com/wastedlocaltalent and reapply. That way we can actually get the email and get you scheduled in.
Hit us up on Facebook. That's a good way.
Yeah, Facebook.
And do it soon, because now that the floodgates are open, I think we're almost booked through November.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we are almost completely booked up.
Which is great.
Yeah. Shoot us over that. The website again is 13palmtrees.com/wastedlocaltalent, or Instagram or Facebook, just at Wasted Local Talent. Check us out there. And we also have big shout out to Worst Kept Secret for letting us use their song Bender in the beginning and end of each of these episodes. They've been on a hiatus. If you listen to our PopCon episode, I actually sat down with Sean, and he kind of went over why they've been on a hiatus. Pat Cole had a baby, which we've also mentioned here. So they've been kind of taking a little bit of a break, but you could check them out online on Facebook at Worst Kept Secret WV, or check them out on like Bands in Town or Apple Music, Spotify. They're on all that as well.
Or you could just say hi to Sean if you see him in person.
Yeah,
ask him to sing to you, which I did.
He's a lovely voice. Sean is Josiah's biggest fan. I think it's so adorable.
And I honestly, until you told me that Sean was a big fan of mine, I had never thought about somebody listening to me before.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm just like yeeting stuff out there into the universe, and with no repercussions, I'm just talking to you. There happens to not be a microphone here. Mm-hmm. But thanks to our fan, Sean.
Yeah, and one single fan.
If you are also a fan of the show, we love to interact with you. And if you have a business, we'd love to have you on, which takes you right back to please apply.
Yes. Also, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes or any of your, whatever app you use. You can scroll down, leave a review because we like to see those, those 5-star reviews. Somebody left us a 1-star review and I will find you, which is fine.
It was probably Jed because he doesn't know the difference.
Yeah. They probably listened to Jed and gave us a 1-star review. So thanks, Jed.
Ruined
for
it.
that.
Ruined it.
So you can check us out, like I said, Instagram, Facebook. And also, if you like live music and you like Wild Wings, Buffalo Wild Wings, that didn't come out the way I wanted it to. Man. My band, After Atlas, is going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings in Bridgeport this Saturday around 6 p.m. We're playing an hour set. Come and hang out. It's free. And I think they're doing like a cornhole tournament or something like that. So, yeah, come hang out and have some beers. And
ever since that you announced this, all I've wanted is fried pickles from Buffalo Wild Wings.
That sounds delicious.
And I'm excited to go get some fried pickles, and hopefully you'll be good too.
Well, we'll be all right.
Okay.
We'll be all right. We've been practicing our asses off, so.
Worst case scenario, if you show up, you're going to leave with some wings and possibly an appetizer. So come out.
Yes. Come hang out with us. Josiah and I will be there. I'm
I'll
pretty sure
probably be there.
Ryan will be there as well. I think Roger might be there. A bunch of the 13 Palm Trees crew will be there. Jed will not, because Jed will be at a NASCAR race this weekend because he is that type of person. Not that it's a bad thing if you like NASCAR.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
It's just, gosh.
Yeah. I was actually going to go with him because he had an extra ticket. Somebody bailed, but we have our show, so I was actually pretty stoked on it. I don't like NASCAR, but sitting in the infield of a NASCAR race would be fun.
I would 100% go to a NASCAR race. There's not very many things that I would not go to for free. Number one would be a country music concert. Not that if you play country music, we'd love to have you on the show, but I don't know anything about country. I don't like country.
Yeah, I don't listen to much country, honestly.
I'm not gonna.
We're just keeping people from applying.
If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all.
And with that, here's Wanderlust.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jed.
I am Josiah.
And this week we are wasting our talent with
Adam Starks, owner of Wanderlust.
Wanderlust. So now tell me, where is Wanderlust?
Wanderlust is in Philippi, West Virginia, and it's... Yeah, never mind. You can get that out right. I'll just leave it at that. I get kind of long-winded. Yeah, Philippi.
I actually was riding through Philippi not that long ago, and I meant to look for you guys whenever I came through, but I forgot all about it. I used to live in Philippi. I lived right over the pawn shop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wanted to look for you guys and stop by, but my wife and I just came down off the mountain, and it was getting pretty hot, and so we were just wanting to get gas and go. So
yeah, that happens a lot. Our competition with sheets is we get that a lot. So it's all good.
Now, you said you were just saying earlier before we started recording, you guys just celebrated your 1 year?
Yeah, we've been in business for just over a year on September 7th, and we branded ourselves as a coffee house and wine lounge. If I had that to do over again, I was talking about stupid mistakes. That was probably one of them. Trying to start a coffee house and wine lounge in Philippi is a little far-fetched. But we've really become so much more than that. I mean, we have great coffee and wine, but we celebrate all of the local craft breweries, as many as we can fit at our bar. So we had High Ground Brewing for our tap takeover for our 1 year pre-celebration. We had Stumptown just this past Friday, and we've had Big Timber in there before for tap takeovers. And so we celebrate a lot of local craft beer too, but you couldn't tell that from the sign.
Yeah, that's something that I did not realize until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, the amount of local breweries that are in the area. And I didn't even know about that until places like there's a place in Fairmont, Joe and Throw.
Yeah.
They have they emphasize a lot of those local breweries. So you guys do that in Philippi.
Absolutely, yep. And it's really Wanderlust, which means a strong desire to travel, is really about bringing the world to us, but also celebrating the local culture and talent that's there. So if you walk in there, you're going to see art by local artists. You're going to see beer by local breweries, and musicians are for the most part, local.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of pivotal to like what we do here with Wasted Local Talent, because a lot of people, man, I've talked to so many people who have moved away from here or want to move away from here, and they all say the same thing, that, you know, there's nothing here. They have to get away. And it's like all that they ever do is look at the negatives.
Right.
You know, but they never look at the positives. There's a lot of positives. There's a lot of great artists here. There's a lot of awesome, like, small town local vibes. Like, you go out to Thomas, Davis, Philippi, like little towns like that, and there's a lot there if you take the time to look.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, to vouch for those people who are negative, it is extremely difficult to, you know, if you have an idea as a young person. One of the reasons I started Wanderlust was for young people. Now, we just had a party last night that was a complete bust, but it was geared, it was called Young, Fabulous, and Broke. It was geared towards the youth, but a lot of them just aren't there, or they may not have the money to come out. And starting this business, one of the most difficult aspects of it was finding capital. And so I think if we have access to resources, I mean, I'm sure you all are no stranger to this. I mean, West Virginia is, you know, from the government on down, a lot of it's just good old boys club and you know, who you know.
For sure.
And, you know, obviously I don't look like I come from Philippi. I get that a lot. You know, where are you from? And, you know, they're, you know, probably expecting Detroit, Chicago, or somewhere like that. But I mean, I'm just as country fried as the rest of West Virginia. You know, I'm from Rappahannock, and it's actually smaller than Philippi. I mean, we had one caution light, a carpet store, and 2 gas stations, and that's it.
I wonder if the gas stations went to war against each other like the Hatfields and McCoys.
Was there a train tracks that ran right through the middle of town?
No, none of that.
There always seems to be that.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Train tracks or a river?
Yeah,
Philippi has the river.
Yeah, we have a river.
Okay,
I grew up
there
on
you
the
go.
farm with the outhouse and all that stuff, and yeah, for part of it. I mean, I came up in the foster care system, but starting out, you know, I was on the farm, and so yeah, I'm very familiar with that life and their lifestyle.
So how has it been? I mean, you've been open for a year now. I remember from when I lived in Philippi, it is about as stereotypical small town West Virginia as you can get.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining starting a small business there had to have been some challenges.
Absolutely. Again, you know, bringing up the capital, I mean, banks aren't going to lend to you, or, you know, the traditional, non-traditional lenders, you know, who say they'll lend to you, you know, not using those same structures, but they deny you based on those same structures. So,
Right.
Again, I truly believe it's who you know. I mean, you know, if you can play that game. But my mother-in-law is the one who actually funded most of what Wanderlust is today. And so as my primary investor, you know, if it wasn't for her, it would be a figment of my imagination. From there, it was just about, you know, when I walk down Main Street, Philippi, I see potential. I mean, there is a lot of blight. There's, you know, challenges. You know, you can find a needle on the sidewalk, or, you know, something like that, and that's unfortunate. But it you know, it fits the stereotype in some aspects. But from a potential standpoint, there's so much more. You know, back in its heyday 30 years ago, or 35 years ago, when it was a, you know, bustling coal town, you know, anyone over 50, their face lights up when they walk in that building. It used to be an old 5 and dime store. And so you go downstairs, and there was toys and penny candies and stuff that they talk about. And so the great thing about Wanderlust is it's restored a lot of that magic that was once there. And so, like I told you, my party for the youth was a bust. last night. It was a bust during Halloween, and when I opened up for young people, I realized at that point that was a pivotal moment for me that they're not going to show up. I've got to cater to the 50 and over crowd. Mm-hmm. And since I have, that's what made Wanderlust truly special and start to thrive. The other issue was, I went too big too soon. If I had it to do over again, maybe not spending, $100,000, maybe just spending $50,000 and not going for the top of the line equipment and stuff like that. That part has been a struggle to just keep it paying on those leases and keeping up with taxes and things like that. Things I thought my education prepared me for, but it certainly did not. And even my 10 years experience at Panera Bread, I took a lot for granted because they had a multi-million-dollar corporate structure behind me, and there was a lot, even though I controlled the numbers, there was a lot of numbers I didn't see. And so now I'm running my own business. I have to make that payroll taxes twice, essentially, and those kind of things. And so at first it was $2,000 that I did not budget in my account, and so I'm scraping, my personal accounts trying to pull this money from somewhere because it wasn't there. So lots of lessons learned. I mean, the learning curve is steep and still ongoing.
That seems to be a theme among all local businesses that start out and that we have on the show. They said we were ready for this, but we didn't even know about this. We didn't even plan for this. It didn't even cross our mind. And now that's the difference between a company making it and not making it, is being able to adjust to things like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and in an unforgiving
world.
Yeah.
So you came from the Panera Bread background, so did I. That was my first job.
Oh, really? Yeah, that was my first job out of college. It was rough.
That was a while ago. Daniel worked there. I worked with Daniel there as well, back in the good old days. Burned myself on many
panini grills.
Oh,
coming
my
home
gosh.
Smelling like... what was it? The turkey artichoke panini.
Yeah.
It made my wife sick.
Oh, gosh. I have a scar on my thumb, 9 stitches from Alex Lilly, but it's fine.
I feel like everybody should have those kind of stories, though. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember my sister and her now husband, they were dating in high school, but he worked at T&L. And then I dated a girl in high school who also worked at T&L. And, man, people come home from working at T&L and they just smell like a hot dog water, and it's so gross.
Yeah.
I feel like that builds character, though. You can tell the difference between someone that's worked customer service and not.
Oh, yeah,
Where,
absolutely.
I mean, that person that's being a jerk in the line, they don't know. They've never done it
They
before.
have no idea.
Someone that's been behind the counter before, they're like, okay, it's fine. I mean, my coffee machine's broken before. I spilled all the straws. I did whatever, but it's okay. You can just, I'll be patient, but yep.
So speaking of customer service, how has it been in Philippi? Have the people of Philippi been pretty welcoming so far?
Yeah, it's been mixed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's mostly conservative, and when I say conservative, not from a political standpoint, but just people wanting things to stay the same, the way they are. The status quo is just fine. Why change it? So I've had that kind of pushback. Wanderlust. Some people got stuck on the last syllable, the lust part, and they were thinking it was going to be a strip club or something like that across from the courthouse, run by a member of the school board, which I am. So I just ask people to think through those things. You hear those rumors. I have a reputation to uphold, and I have a family, and so I'm not going to open up a strip club in the middle of Philippi Main Street. All joking aside, for the most part, it has been extremely well received, and I've been overwhelmed by just the amount of positive feedback I've received from, everyone from the sheriff to just local prominent community members.
Have you made any plans in the last year, or are you just right now just focusing on the day-to-day with the business?
I still feel like I'm only in phase one. One of the challenging things about Philippi is there really isn't a place to stay. I mean, we do have the Mountaineer Inn, but usually pipeliners or miners or someone, they're staying there from out of town. But there's no real hotel to speak of. And so my grand idea is to take the other 7,000 square feet of space up above me and open up a book hostel. And, a lot of places around here in Elkins and Davis Thomas at Purple Fiddle, they have that hostel, and so they can attract bigger names, and I would like to do that at some point. So a book hostel, those are popular throughout Europe and Japan, so that's where I got the inspiration from. And people have donated, local community members have donated over 3,000 books to me. And so we have a little bookstore. When you walk in, you'll see books, and then you'll see a coffee, and then you'll see the dining room, and then the bar, and then the entertainment stage. And so it's a very eclectic layout, but the books are the first thing you notice. And so that's what I want upstairs, people to be able to crawl in the nook and escape the everyday.
That would be very cool.
I always like open mic night too. You said you have an entertainment stage, so that could always be very entertaining. There's not much nightlife in Philippi.
Right. And so every second Thursday of the month we have open mic night. And this last one, this past week, was our most successful. We actually had musicians that had to walk away because it took so long. And so we're hoping to remedy that next time. But it was awesome to see that many musicians lined up wanting to play.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then they can, I call it the Wanderlust Idol. So some people will get to play on stage Friday and Saturday night, and I'll give them, a couple $100 because it's really, for me, it's about supporting the musicians and the artists as much as possible.
So you offer coffee, wine, beer, books,
Music. It's just like a
food.
Yeah, the bistro kind of think of it as a Panera Bread with beer and entertainment.
It's like a pop culture hub.
Yeah.
Which Philippi as a town is a very historical kind of town. I know I've been there for Blue and Gray Day for every middle school field trip ever. But it's kind of cool to see a more modern thing in Philippi that kind of brings the people out. Because when I think Philippi, I think Blue and Gray Day, I think the bridge, I think Civil War, and that's
it.
A.B. College, maybe.
Well, that was kind of what struck me first whenever I moved there, because I went to A.B. That's why I moved there. And I think what struck me the most was that, like, there were so many shops on Main Street that weren't open anymore and looked like they hadn't been open for a very long time, Yeah. And it was just like, it almost looked like the town had just frozen like 25 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
And nothing had changed from then until now.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, and that's what I fell in love with was the potential. I mean, my wife and I moved there 3 years ago, but I've been coming in and out of the town for about 18 years. But passing through it, we would always go through Davis Thomas, and I remember it being nothing but the Purple Fiddle up there.
Yeah,
and the rest of it was blight. And you go there. I mean, the parking lots are full. The community's thriving. It's a beautiful site, and I love that. And I would love to have that for Philippi, but it's going to take more investment and a little more vision. And it's. People are trying to come together and change that, but it's a long road ahead, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it, I think, is probably just somebody maybe needed to take the first step. So,
right.
Maybe with Wanderlust coming there, that'll attract other people.
Yeah, and that's my strategy. I mean, I call it the Purple Fiddle strategy, and some people have said that we're the Purple Fiddle on steroids, and that's pretty much what it is. I mean, it's a massive space, 7,000 square feet of space that we're using. We've managed to fill it once with the Cleverleys back in March. It had 300 people in there in Philippi, and you couldn't find a parking spot anywhere. It was amazing.
Not even 300 people in Philippi.
But yeah, it was a fantastic night and something I'll remember for the rest of my life. And so we're going to try to do that again with another band. Maybe the Cleverleys again, or maybe the Davison Brothers, if I can ever find the time to fill out all that paperwork that it takes to get them.
So you mentioned earlier that you were targeting maybe the younger demographic to start, and then what made you realize I might need to target this older demographic of people that have lived here since the town died 30 years ago? Like, what went into some of your business strategies? You said you've learned from your mistakes.
Yeah.
So changing on the fly in the last year, what have you done?
Okay. Well, the epiphany for me, that moment, we opened up in September, and I noticed that the college students, they just weren't coming down. I was trying to advertise on Instagram, Twitter, and I can't stand Twitter, but I jumped on there anyways, trying to, tag people and tag the university. Facebook, of course, Facebook's for old people, according to the students up there. So, that was out.
It's not false. That's facts
yeah.
right there.
So I do a lot of my marketing on Facebook, but of course I'm gearing towards the older crowd now. So I was trying all that. I was even trying to learn Snapchat, and they still weren't coming down. And so I had this Halloween party, lights, lasers, fog. We had a costume contest and all this stuff, and 12 people showed up, and only 4 of them were college students. And I paid all this money for this DJ, and I'm sitting there, like, they're not coming. They're never coming. Not in the capacity that I need for this place to survive. I have to change. And so I started recruiting more bluegrass bands, more country, whatever people were, whatever they're listening to. More local musicians. Like I said, I started Too Big Too Soon. We had the Lonesome River Band in there. We had the Church Sisters, and some, and those bands cost me thousands of dollars, but it was too much too soon. We were relatively, unknown. 2 months in, I have the Lonesome River Band, and we only had about 120, which is a extremely small crowd for them. And way too small for me to make any money off of that event. And so, but bands like Full Circle and B Sharp, they're local. The Eddie Davison Band, those 3 bands are my go-to. So I have them once a quarter, and they bring people out onto the dance floor. They bring the people out in droves, and they only cost me a few $100s. And so that was a valuable lesson to me. And it was a moment where I had to correct my ship and say, okay, we can't go to this tropical island with the youth because they either don't have money or they're just not interested in what in my brand and what I'm trying to offer. Now, for me, back in the day, I did graduate. I did graduate in 2003, so I'm not that far removed, but I know I would have killed for a space like that, to just be able to study and kick back. But
absolutely.
Things are different now. And the way I see it is I just haven't cracked the code yet. And so I will at some point, but I just have to figure it out.
Not many people have. That's a problem that a lot of even multi-billion-dollar corporations are trying to figure out how to reach the millennial generation.
Yeah.
Well, did
or
you
they
go
even
to
call
AB?
them Z now. I taught up there for 2 years, and my initial spark for Wanderlust was the amount of students that we were losing. And their chief complaint was, "There's nothing to do here. This doesn't feel like a college town," and they weren't wrong.
Literally, all you had was the cave.
Yeah,
and then it burned down.
Yeah,
and then did they ever rebuild it? I don't know that they did.
I think it's Jasmine's Cafe or something. It's some kind of coffee cafe up there now or something. I believe that's where it was at.
Yeah. No, I remember when I went there, it was like the weirdest thing. I always used to say, like, it reminded me of being at Hogwarts, because it was like when you were there on campus, because I had an apartment, because I live far enough away from my parents' house that I could do the travel. So I told them I was traveling from home, and then I just got an apartment in Philippi. Otherwise, they make you stay, in the dorms, and I didn't want to. And everybody else there, like, a lot of them don't have cars, or they're coming from really far away, like their hometown, like where they live, because it's Philippi. It's somewhat out of the way.
Sure.
And a lot of them were coming from, hours away. Some of the people that I went to school with were coming from Ohio, Pennsylvania. And to them, it was like there was nothing that existed outside of the campus and Sheets.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then maybe they would have a friend who was a junior or a senior and had a house, and then they would like go to house parties every once in a while. But really, it was just like the only thing anybody ever thought to do was just to go to Morgantown or go to Clarksburg or whatever. And I remember, like, I told a couple people that I had an apartment because they were always like, "Where are you going all the time in between classes?" And I'm like, "I'm going to my apartment." They're just like, "What? You have an apartment?" Like, yeah, it's in town. Like, you can go past Sheets. Like, there's other things if you keep going. Like, there's a grocery store there. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And it's weird. It's like, I don't know. I've been to a lot of colleges before, and I don't know that I've ever been to one that kind of has that weird mindset where, like, you're up on top of that mountain, and it's just like nothing exists outside of those walls.
Yeah.
I went to Waynesburg, and it was that way a lot as well, where you would hang out on campus, and there was a McDonald's downtown, but if you'd want to do anything, you'd go to Morgantown or Washington, PA, and that was it. Because there was one theater. It was a single theater with like 100 seats, and that was it. And they played something like Friday night, and of course I always missed it because it was like 6:00 in the afternoon.
Is there a movie theater in Philippi? I don't think there is.
No.
You should have some movie showings.
Well, the library, or Philippi Main Street, they sponsor a lot of courtyard movies. And so that's pretty cool. They have like a little, it looks like a blow-up screen or something like that.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Just hope it's not windy.
Right, yeah. Or raining. Yeah, I think it rained on them one time.
Oh,
but,
man.
yeah.
I went to a drive-in theater one time, and the fog rolled in. Couldn't see a thing. But I imagined what the Pirates of the Caribbean looked like to the best of my ability. That's all. So, back to you. You mentioned you worked at Panera Bread for 10 years, and then you just recently moved to Philippi.
Yes.
Where was...
It's a huge gap in that story.
Well, well, that's what I want you to fill in a little bit. Is how do you get from... How did the idea come to... You said you fell in love with the potential of Philippi. Where did you go? Okay, let's start Wanderlust.
Let's move there and start a business.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it wasn't my idea to move to Philippi. It was my wife's idea. She's from the area, born and raised, 11th generation, all that jazz. And, I have connections to my foster families, but not one, strong enough to feel like I need to move back home or something like that. So my wife and I just celebrated 17 years in July.
Hey, congrats.
Yeah, thanks. And we've been all over the place. We started in Harrisonburg. That's where we met. We moved up to Winchester, Virginia. Again, both of those, I was working at Panera Bread. And before we left Winchester, I was switched over to the government for a while because the 16-hour days at Panera Bread as a manager.
Yeah, those are rough.
Yeah, that wasn't a lifestyle that I wanted after graduating college. So settled down with the government for another 10 years. We moved up to Martinsburg, West Virginia, where we were trying to decide where we wanted to go. And we eventually ended up in Pittsburgh. I couldn't make it work in Pittsburgh. And what I mean by I couldn't make it work, I've always wanted to be part of a community doing something, whether it was, helping out with a nonprofit or, doing something. And I could not make any inroads there. And I say that my grand idea up there was to start a school for some of the inner city areas like Homewood, where Black people were systematically cut off from resources. And the segregation in Pittsburgh was something that I'd never experienced, growing up in the country. It was just like, we're all poor. I mean, of course, I experienced racism, but not systemic racism. Right. Yeah. And so, even though it didn't impact me personally, I could see how it did impact those communities. And so my grand idea was, well, the public school system up here isn't really doing a good job, and they're not filtering any of the resources over there. So I wanted to, get in on that front. And so the only thing I figured out after 2 years of that was the only thing Black people up there hate more than white suburban Pittsburgh is Black outsiders. So, they did not trust me at all. I mean, I don't know if it was the way I articulate my words or whatever, but they did not trust me, and I could not make inroads. And so I was still working in D.C. at the time, so I was commuting 6 hours one way, living with my
Lord.
living with my cousin for 4 days in D.C. on basically sleeping on the couch, and I have by the way, I have 3 children in Pittsburgh.
Oh.
And so it just wasn't a lifestyle for me. And so my wife and I, we got together, what are we going to do? There has to be a better way. And so in comes Philippi. Hey, let's move to Philippi. And we ended up purchasing a turn of the century, beautiful home.
There are so many gorgeous houses.
Yeah, I know, and some of them are just going to waste, and it's a crying shame. But this one was saved by the tenants who owned it before us, and it's just 3 years later, still a gorgeous work in progress today. So I've got to find out.
House is never
It
finished.
always will be.
Yeah, well, I have to
Never
find out
finished.
how to get up on that roof to change the gutters now. So that's gonna be fun.
Oh man,
But
Daniel will do
nevertheless-
it.
Better you than me. I don't like heights.
Well, I'm trying not to die. So if y'all know a contractor, that would be awesome. But nevertheless, back to the potential of Philippi. Now here I am. I moved there. I'm kind of depressed because I just haven't been able to make it work anywhere. I haven't been able to settle down. I've got a family of 5, and I just I'm just sitting here thinking, I've done a lot with my life. I've written a book, and I've been pretty successful. I came up through foster care. I was one of those kids that just was supposed to be a statistic, and so I'm blessed in some ways, but I still feel like, and maybe it's just blind ambition, I just feel like I haven't accomplished enough. I just turned 39 last month, and so I guess in some minds I've done plenty, but I'm still waiting for my moment, so to speak. And so I run for the local school board after a little bit of encouragement. Somehow, a black man in the middle of, Philippi wins a school board election. But again, I've always been relatable. Even though I can talk about tough issues, it's not. I don't feel like race has to be us versus them kind of thing. It's kind of we're a melting pot, and we can come together if the right forces are in place. And that being said, I won that school board election. We elected a new mayor to change the direction. Part of the problem was the previous mayor. I don't know him personally, but just from stories from others, the reason things stayed stagnant and the same was because that mayor was there for like 20 years or something like that, and just he was comfortable with the status quo, like so many people are. Why change things? Yeah, I'm fine, so why change it?
Right.
So the Mayor Phil Bowers asked me if I had any ideas to jumpstart Main Street. I said, well, as a matter of fact, I do. And I had a list of 17 ideas. Which one would be the best? And so it was just, I guess, a moment of serendipity where Wanderlust just came together. I mean, that building was available. I'm a big nerd, so dictionary.com, Wanderlust popped up one day, a strong desire to travel. I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. And it didn't, have the Tiger River or covered bridge or blue and gray restaurant or any of the other things. It was just different enough to get people talking, and it sure did.
I like that. I like that, though, because especially since it's, you said you're doing the book Hostel thing, and, to me, that represents an escape, sort of.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
From the realities that, because you're standing out on Main Street in Philippi, you're going to be seeing a lot of the negative stuff like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And it's going to be staring you right in the face. Like you were saying, you might find a needle on the sidewalk. I definitely remember seeing people passed out in parking lots, like in the middle of the day. But you have somewhere that you can go and see the potential of what could be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people come in there. It took me about 5 or 6 months. Let's go with 6 months to train people when they walked in to not say this is too nice for Philippi. Like, no, this is exactly what Philippi
Yeah,
needs.
you deserve this.
Yeah. You don't have to go to Clarksburg
Yeah.
to get good coffee. You don't have to go to Clarksburg to, find a healthy salad or a healthy meal. Of course, I name products like our pepperoni roll panini. It's called the Country Roads. I just came up with a Mountaineer salad that has steak and golden apples and apple cider vinaigrette and stuff like that. Things you're not going to find at your, local drive-through McDonald's or Hardee's.
Yep.
But, even though, I see lines there every day, there is a segment of the market that wants healthy options, and I'm catering to that.
I would have killed for that because I know I ate like pretty much exclusively. I ate
Dollar menu
Sheets, Sheets,
and Sheets.
Henderson's when Henderson's was still open, which I heard they closed, and
They did.
I'm so sad about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sad you ate that pizza. I'm teasing.
So I never
put that in there.
I never ever got the pizza there. I always got the pepperoni rolls because he made those like huge pepperoni rolls, and they were like $6. And as a person washing cars in Bridgeport and then going to school in Philippi,
Right, yeah.
$6 for a big pepperoni roll was
Absolutely.
awesome. But yeah, either there and like every once in a while I would chance the Chinese place.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I would have had another option, because I was 18, I didn't cook food.
Right, sure.
You know what I mean? I didn't know how to cook. Like
none of us did.
I probably could have messed up scrambled eggs, but having another place that I could go and eat would have been awesome.
Right. Yeah. And that's what it's about. And so hopefully at some point, and there are some things I have to do differently too. Like I'm in the, I would say probably the third strategic pivot in my strategy. We're going to have to get out of the breakfast business. I mean, I just cannot compete with two, chain drive-throughs, Hardee's and McDonald's, and then Sheetz was right there. There's 30 cars at Sheetz. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, and we may have one or two customers in that hour. And so it's not working.
Bacon is expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly. And so I'm looking at, instead of staying open just until 8, now maybe moving that to 11. So instead of opening up earlier, maybe staying open later and transferring those labor dollars and hours to try to attract the students, because maybe I'm closing too early. I mean, that's a very real possibility because Sheetz, their latest, their busiest time is between 11 and 2 at night, and it's full of college students. I'll go down there and get a pepperoni roll or something like that, late night snack, and I'm just like, wow, man, this is crazy down here. And it's Philippi in the middle of the night, and all these kids are down here, and so maybe I'm just missing that opportunity because I'm not open.
Yeah, I mean it's something to try. You could even just try to like pilot it on like one or 2 days of the week. And see,
Friday and Saturday.
Yeah,
or-
see if people come in on those days.
Yeah.
It's about experimenting and learning, and if it doesn't work, go back to, or if it does work, then stay up until 2. Who knows?
I think the biggest disappointment for me as an adult is realizing that like nobody sits down and eats breakfast, like ever.
No.
They really don't.
Ever. Like everybody just grabs breakfast and goes to work.
Yeah.
Or grabs breakfast on the way to work.
Or skips breakfast
Or
altogether.
just doesn't eat breakfast
Right.
at all. Like, man, I miss being a kid and like getting ready for school and sitting there and watching the awful TV that was on at like 5:30 in the morning.
I watched Saved by the Bell.
Like I said, the awful TV that was
hold
on
on,
at
hold on.
5:30 in the morning.
We're going to fight after this.
But no, like sitting there and eating breakfast, like nobody does that anymore. And I'm sure that that's probably part of it is that, they're just wanting, how can I get this as fast as possible? I just want to go, grab it, go. Just,
Exactly.
They don't want to have to think about like, I'm going to find somewhere to park and go inside and grab this. Like, because everybody's in a rush all the time.
Exactly. And that's, coming back to the book Hostel, I'm hoping I can get people to slow down.
Right.
And then reintroduce breakfast later on. So I don't want to completely give up on it because we have these amazing bacon, egg, and cheese on everything bagels. Man, it's to die for. But, man, I cannot get people in the door because where we're at on Main Street, you really have to want it. You have to park across the street. So, if you're coming the opposite direction, walk out of your car, walk in, wait for it because we don't pull it off.
It's not on like
the
a hot
assembly
shelf.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hot shelf, and give it to you. So it's made to order, and so you have to wait for it and then go back out. And so I can't get people to slow down long enough to do that.
You got to target the retired crowd to get that.
I don't know. I don't necessarily think you do. I think that what he's saying about the purple fiddle strategy is right, because like one thing that I've been trying to do the last, I would say, like 6 months to a year is I've been trying to take days off where like I didn't do anything.
Yep.
You know, like I'll take a Saturday or I'll take a day off work. And it's not to get caught up on anything. It's just to not do anything.
Yeah.
And we'll go like get on our motorcycles and we'll go ride somewhere, and we'll just like, we'll just go ride up to Davis and just sit at there's a coffee place, Tip Top.
Yeah.
And, we'll just go sit and like drink coffee and just like, look at Facebook on our phones and like watch YouTube videos and just not do anything and just relax. And like, that's so helpful mentally and physically, just to de-stress and just have a day where you're not doing anything. And everybody's always just wanting to run. Right. And if you can bring in that environment, because you go drive through Davis now and Thomas, and it's just people just hanging out.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's really going anywhere. Nobody's really doing anything. You see people who are out riding bikes or, coming back from a hike or something, or maybe they were kayaking. But a lot of the time it's just people sitting on the side of the road drinking a cup of coffee.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And if you can get that atmosphere, you'll bring those people in.
It's a whole culture change.
Because, I mean, how many of those people do you think actually live up there? Like, it's a drive to get up there.
Yeah.
Davis and Thomas are further away than Philippi by far. So,
yeah, it's possible. Like I said, it's all about the potential and, having the vision. But like I said, I can't do it alone.
yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. It's, how do I bring in investors? How do I bring in partners? So it's not all on my plate.
So does Philippi do anything like the city? I know you said you're on the school board, but you said that you talked to the mayor. Do they have any kind of like incentives to bring in business?
No. No. We actually just... meaning the city, just re-implemented parking meters. And so there's a lot of local business pushback on that.
Yeah, that's kind of the opposite of what
right, exactly. Buckhannon did away with parking meters, and it's inviting to tourists.
Is, absolutely.
And so if we're going to increase tourism, we can't have things like that. And, the fact that it's 2019 and people don't carry quarters anymore, that's kind of problematic.
Oh, they're not even like the
No.
smartphone parking meters.
No.
Wow.
They're the old school.
Nobody's going to use that.
Well, yeah, they're going to get a ticket. I actually got a ticket last week because
man.
it wasn't working the weekend before. And so I just assumed it wasn't working again. I try to put quarters in them all the time. So apparently they fixed them. And then I got a $5 ticket.
I will go out of my way to avoid a parking meter. I'll walk a
Oh
mile,
yeah,
a mile
I
before
will
spending
park
50
so
cents.
far
Yeah.
away.
I did that for the Mountaineer game yesterday.
Yeah.
I walked over a mile just to park at a friend's house.
Yeah.
Won't pay.
And now, if it's the ones where you can just like have the app
Yeah.
and you just do it on your phone
Digitally, yeah.
like I'll use that.
They have ones where you can use your card as like
Yeah.
So I don't know where this is heading, but we have to do something different. We can't go back in time. I'm actually considering, holding on the rolls of quarters for my patrons so they can pay. But, they only give you, I think, an hour. And so you have to go out there every hour, which is
That's the max?
ludicrous. Yeah.
and that's going to deter college students trying to study for finals, drinking coffee.
Why
late at
would they
night.
max it? Why would they even have a maximum?
I don't know. Maybe the meters are so old they only go up to 1 hour. I don't know.
These are pre Y2K
Yeah.
parking meters.
I mean, I was gonna say like, that's something that maybe you could try to work on, is working with the local government to have something to try to entice other business in.
Yeah.
Because like, even though, you'll have competition at that point, competition brings customers.
Right, yeah, and
So-
and we have Lil Mo's, as you know, in the Medallion. All three of us are serving different segments of the market. And so I really don't see them as customers. And you had mentioned, attracting the retired crowd.
Yeah.
Now they go to Medallion. They want sausage and gravy. That's a sausage and gravy crowd. They're not going to, they probably don't even know what an everything bagel is. So it's really about trying to coax those college students off the hill if I'm going to reintroduce breakfast, or tourists, coming down from the book hostel. So, like I said, I'm not going to give up on it. If Wendy's can take a third attempt at breakfast, which they're planning on doing here in the coming months, I can take a second attempt. Of course, I think they're going to repeat the same mistakes, and bow out again. But
take notes and make sure.
Yeah. Again, being the nerd that I am, I look at those case studies, and it's baffling that they're thinking about getting into breakfast again. But maybe they learned something from Taco Bell. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's it's frustrating because I always loved Philippi.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to, I said I lived over the pawn shop there, and I used to go walk. I'm trying to think of what cardinal direction that would be. I think it's north.
Yeah, North Philippi.
But going like towards the covered bridge.
Okay, yeah.
And I would walk clear out past the funeral home, past the bike shop where Henderson's was, and go
North
all
Park.
the way out until you got to where it turned into like a one lane, and there's that property out there where they have like all the old tractors and stuff in the yard and the windmill, and I'd go walk all the way down through there. And then I left AB and decided to enlist in the military, and then I started running out there, and I would run out there every morning. And I just remember thinking, like, a lot of days whenever I was out there, like, man, maybe one day whenever I'm out of the military, like, I can move back here and live here, and like have a house here and actually live here. But if they keep that attitude up,
well, I think it's what they know.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine, to a point. I'm not saying that they need to change, but if Philippi is going to thrive in the future, they have no choice but to change. Parking meters are not the way to go. We actually need more access to parking, not less. And when you create this, this nickel and diming kind of culture, that's going to deter tourism. I mean, that's...
Yeah, absolutely. They need to do something like, something to try to attract businesses that will attract customers.
Yeah.
And whether that's renovating buildings and going into contracts with business owners to spruce things up, or, I don't know what, but they definitely need to.
I will vouch for them, for the city of Philippi, on one project, that building commission. So with that building, it was, again, deteriorating like so many other ones, unfortunately. But they pumped $250,000 into that building to get it up to code, new roof, new HVAC, new electricity, abating asbestos and black mold down in the basement, which hadn't been taken care of since what they call the Great Flood of '85. So they pumped a lot of money into it, and then I pumped a lot of money into my concept. And so there are people there willing, within that government structure, willing to make the investments and things like that. We just need a little bit better vision of the future and what that looks like.
Yeah. So you said that, I know you're on Facebook, yeah?
Yeah.
And it's Wanderlust?
At Wanderlust WV. You can find us under that tag on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay. And I guess we'll say currently, what is the availability of the business, the hours of operation?
Yeah. So again, I made a strategic decision here a couple of weeks ago to close Sundays and Mondays because it's a ghost town in Philippi. We're open 8 to 8 Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and 8 to 9 on Thursday. 8 until whenever on Friday, and it depends on the event. If it's going on till 10 or 11, we're of course open. And then 10 a.m. to whenever on Saturday.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure.
runs, this is all